There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 32, Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment Appropriation Bill.
I now invite the Honourable Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment to introduce the budget vote. The Honourable Minister.
Honourable House Chair, Deputy Minister, Ms. Makotso Sotyu, Honourable Chairperson Modise, and members of the committee, the Director General, Ms. Nomfundo Chabalala, Team Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, CEOs and chairpersons of our boards, of our entities, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans. Good morning. I want to begin today by acknowledging my special guests who have joined this proceedings that are being live streamed from one of our beautiful natural assets, the Kirstenbosch Botanical Gardens, led by Ms. Siv Melani, who hails from Qunu in the Eastern Cape. Siv completed her BSc degree in Geographic Information Systems and Geology with the University of Fort Hare. In July 2021, 5 years after she graduated, Siv finally had a career break when she was recruited to the Groen Sebenza program as a trainee to support the ecological infrastructure project for water security at Sanbi. Ms. Melani is one of 1,117 graduates we have recruited to our Groen Sebenza program, which provides young people with 2 years of work experience and aims to ensure they receive long-term work in the science sector so that their education, knowledge, and energies are fully harnessed to maintain our country's natural resources. Last year, the Convention on Biological Diversity reached an agreement dubbed the New Deal for People and Nature, or the Kunming-Montreal Protocol, was adopted in December 2022. The framework has 3 central aspects. The first is the recognition that human and ecosystem sustainability require 30% of the land and 30% of the sea to be placed under protection by 2030. Secondly, that communities living in and adjacent to conservation estates must benefit from the economic opportunities created. And thirdly, that the intellectual property of indigenous people, which underpins many bioprospecting endeavors in the pharmaceutical and cosmetics industry, must be recognized and rewarded. There was also agreement that developed countries must assist developing countries in achieving global conservation targets. In March this year, our government adopted the White Paper on Conservation and Sustainable Use of South Africa's Biodiversity, which is intended to ensure that we domesticate this significant global agreement. Through the support of the Global Environment Facility, the department has received an early action grant, which we are using to develop the implementation of our White Paper. To attract financing to our biodiversity sector, our digital biodiversity investment portal is now profiling projects within the biodiversity economy space to potential domestic and international investors. It is our intention to ensure that previously disadvantaged communities are able to use this platform to highlight their projects in the biodiversity value chain. Our approved National Protected Areas Expansion Strategy provides an informed, systematic approach on the expansion of the conservation estate with a rate of 0.5 annually. In line with this increase, South Africa will achieve a rate of 20% protection for its terrestrial space by 2036 and 10% in the same year. We envisage that through this process, we are likely to achieve the global 30 by 30 target for the marine space by the early 2040s. Honorable members, last year I indicated I will appoint a panel to advise me on the voluntary exit from the captive lion breeding industry. I'm pleased to report to this House that the task team was appointed in December and is making steady progress. Last month, a public call was gazetted inviting registration by participants who wish to voluntarily exit the industry, and I have recently extended the registration period by 30 days to afford more enterprises to take advantage of this opportunity. Furthermore, now that we have completed the white paper, we will return to processing all the feedback we received on the policy paper on the high-level panel recommendations. With regard to the TOPS regulations that were withdrawn recently, we have decided to strengthen the administrative process, and they will shortly be put out for 30 days of public comment. The South African National Parks remains the international benchmark for conservation management in our country. As part of the commercialization drive, this entity aims to deliver 39 new tourism products over the next 3 years in partnership with the private sector. 14 of these projects will commence in this financial year. In addition, these programs provide economic opportunities to local communities by creating over 2,000 direct jobs in local SMMEs, from whom concessionaires will provide goods and services valued at 75 million rand a year to SANParks. Last month, I was excited to launch SANParks Vision 2040, an inclusive process where South Africans can participate in reimagining and co-creating a new future for the conservation in national protected areas. Given that SANParks will be celebrating a century of its existence in 2026, the development of this vision is most timeless. With regards to the recent study published by ENACT on corruption and criminality in the Kruger landscape, known as the Rademeyer Report, I'm pleased to report to this House today that the National Integrated Strategy to Combat Wildlife Crime was adopted by Cabinet last week. This means that the NatJoint's Priority Committee on Wildlife Trafficking will now identify critical measures for all government agencies to implement over the next 6 months. Due to the fact that Hluhluwe-Mfolozi has become a rhino poaching hotspot, this year our department will support Envrionment KZN Wildlife to combat rhino poaching. In this regard, we will also invest 40 million rand to improve the boundary fence as part of our assistance. In the Kruger Park itself, we are focusing on improving the wellness and well-being of our staff so that they are not lured into the illicit trade. Measures being implemented include career path development and training, ranger wellness and counseling programs, improvement in staff housing and accommodation, and putting in place an anonymous tip-off line and setting up liaison committees with local communities. To ensure greater safety of our visitors, the Tourism Business Council of South Africa has installed high-tech surveillance equipment at the Numbi Gate, and the Kruger-Lohveld Chamber of Business and Tourism is supporting community training and development to improve security around this access point. I wish to express our appreciation to these stakeholders for this important support. It is almost a year since the St. Lucia Mouth estuary breached naturally. Following the 2021 artificial breaching, I appointed a panel of experts from which recommendations were made relating to the future of the management of the park. So far, we have done extensive work on developing the new estuarine management plan, which we expect to be completed by August. To deal with the extensive backflooding of farmlands, the panel A panel of environmental consultants has been appointed to conduct the necessary environmental assessment. And if all goes well, it is estimated that within 90 days, we could begin the process of cleaning the levees and the canals. The critically important mouse-free Marion project, undertaken in partnership with BirdLife South Africa, aims to restore Marion Island, a special nature reserve and Ramsar wetland site of international importance, by eradicating invasive house mice from the island. Provided BirdLife South Africa can raise the remaining funding from a range of interested international donors, this ambitious project is aimed to be completed in 2025. The first phase of removing the original and now abandoned meteorological research station will commence in October this year. The National Zoological Gardens in Tshwane have been incorporated into SANBI. As part of a new repositioning strategy, we aim to modernize the zoo and enhance its role in species conservation, research, biodiversity education, public engagement, tourism, and recreation. In asserting SANBI as a leader in zoological research and conservation, investments are also being made to upgrade laboratories, the genetic services unit, the animal hospital, and a biobank for animal tissue. This will ensure that the zoo plays an important part in combating illegal wildlife trade and providing wildlife forensic services. To enhance income-generating activities such as the cable car and the restaurant, we will be entering into public-private partnerships, and this will also assist us to improve animal enclosures and the aquarium. Honourable members, our country is faced with significant waste management challenges. These include poor landfill practices and sporadic household waste collection, as well as unacceptable levels of illegal dumping in many parts of our country. To support municipalities, our department will focus on improving cleanliness in Mahikeng, Manawong, Bishu, and other provincial towns. The expanded public works program will support cleaning and greening by assisting with litter picking in designated streets and clearing of illegal dumps, as well as greening and planting of trees. Their efforts will be complemented by 32 waste enterprises that have been supported to increase recycling and the construction and demolition, to increase recycling in the construction and demolition waste stream, plastic packaging, and other areas. It is worth noting that over the past 2 financial years, the department has spent 168 million rand to assist 58 municipalities to purchase the yellow fleet. Our extended producer responsibility schemes for paper, packaging, electrical, electronic, and lighting sectors have begun to divert waste. Last year, 1.5 million tons of paper and packaging was diverted from landfill. Nearly 19,000 tons of e-waste was also diverted over the same period. The department is strengthening compliance and enforcement measures, especially against free riders that undermine our collective EPR efforts in the recycling area. The department's recycling enterprise program has, over the past 6 years, supported 56 startups and emerging SMMEs within the waste sector, providing 300 million rand in financial support and creating 1,500 jobs. Our fishing sector is an important contributor to our economy and the improvement of lives in coastal communities. In 2021, the department received 2,473 applications for the allocation of commercial rights in 9 fishing sectors. Rights were allocated to 714 at the beginning of last year. Work to complete the 1,200 appeals is progressing well. By April this year, we had completed 4 sectors, and we hope that very soon we will also complete the squid sector. Appeal decisions in the remaining sectors are set for finalization by October 2023. With regard to the reallocation of small-scale fishing rights in the Western Cape, the department has rerun the process and a list of successful applicants was published on the 6th of March. We are now in the appeals phase, and it is our intention to conclude the entire process by October 2023 that will hopefully then benefit over 3,500 declared traditional small-scale fishers in the Western Cape. I'm pleased to announce today that we have now a draft strategy and an action plan to combat trade in illegally harvested abalone, which is in consultation. We are also leading a process of developing marine sector plans as part of the Marine Spatial Planning Unit. In an effort to manage competing interests in the marine environment, last year I committed to researching the impact of seismic surveys. The department has produced an assessment of international best practice in mitigating impacts of these surveys and is now determining how these can be used in local ocean areas. We are also working with Petroleum SA and the Council for Geoscience to map historic records of seismic surveys to determine if any impact was observed during these surveys. Honourable members, the published 6th assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change confirms that the world has already warmed by an unprecedented rate and that Africa is already experiencing widespread losses and damage due to climate change. Our country's mitigation and adaptation architecture are at an advanced stage. We have developed the sector emission targets that outline emission reduction goals for key sectors. With respect to carbon budget allocations, Cabinet has approved a methodological framework to determine emission allocations to industrial sectors for the 2023 to 27 period. Parallel to this process, the department is also developing carbon budget regulations that will address the submission and processing of climate change mitigation plans by industry. On the adaptation front, we continue to roll out our local government support program. In addition to assisting 44 district municipalities to develop their climate change plans, we are now working with 9 provinces to review their existing plans and align them with the climate change bill that honourable members are currently processing. The South African Weather Service is in the process of automating and modernizing its observation infrastructure. This includes upgrades to mitigate the effect of load shedding. Increased collection and accuracy of data will ensure we can warn the public timelessly about extreme weather events. We have also promised through last year's budget speech that we are working on regulations for implementing and enforcing priority air quality management plans. I am pleased to indicate that we have now published these regulations for public comment. As our country faces severe load shedding, I'm pleased to share with you today that in our environmental impact assessment section, there is a project pipeline of 9,789 megawatts of renewable energy, made up of 2,800 megawatts of solar PV and 6,800 megawatts of wind energy. Many of these applications also include battery storage. We are working hard to cut red tape and get these projects finalized. And in this regard, we have reduced our decision-making timeframes from 107 to 57 days. Grid capacity, as we all know, is a major constraint to scaling up energy transition, and that is a view across the board with consensus from stakeholders, government, business, labor, and civil society. Grid capacity is a national priority to solve not only for our transition needs, but also for our short-term emergencies generation to solve load shedding. We have 15 EIA applications relating to transmission and distribution infrastructure, which we are also prioritizing for decision-making. Honorable members, in recent times, as we battle load shedding, concern has been expressed around the delays that are being considered in the decommissioning for aging power stations. Government is clear. We must battle both load shedding and climate change. It is not a one or the other decision. Current modeling will advise how we balance our decommissioning schedule so that we can achieve energy security within the context of our climate change commitments and air quality improvement. Honorable Chair, as I conclude our last budget vote speech for the 6th administration, allow me to borrow the words articulated by the first environmentalist and African woman to receive the Nobel laureate, Ms. Wangari Maathai, who said, "I'm very conscious of the fact that you can't do it alone. It's teamwork. When you do it alone, you run the risk that when you are no longer there, no one else will do it." Let me thank the team in Envrionment, who has worked so hard to enhance our environmental obligations. Honorable Modise and the Portfolio Committee for consistent oversight, which keeps us on our toes. The scientific experts and stakeholders who advise me on many complex matters on a number of panels that I have established. My wonderful Deputy Minister, Ms. Makotso Sochu, our Director General, Ms. Nomfundo Chabalala, and Team DFFE, which includes over 3,300 officials throughout the country. Our board members and CEOs of SAWS, Isimangaliso, Sanbi, and Sandparks, for all your dedication to environmental matters and your never-ending failure to take my telephone calls late at night. Honorable members, we remain dedicated to environmental matters and to the sustainable use of our country's natural resources. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next speaker is the Honorable Modise. Before you proceed, Honorable Modise, may I request the Honorable Deputy Minister Chwete to switch off the microphone. Please continue.
Thank you very much. A very good morning to you, House Chairperson. Good morning to Minister Chrissy and Deputy Minister Soju, the esteemed colleagues from the Portfolio Committee of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, fellow members of Parliament, the stakeholders in the environmental sector, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I wish to extend a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the Portfolio Committee of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. We gather here today for the annual debate on the budget vote for the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environmental Affairs. Firstly, I want to express my gratitude to all the members of the Portfolio Committee. Their unwavering commitment to protecting our environment for the benefit of the present and future of South Africans is greatly appreciated. The dedication, the diligence, and intellectual contributions of our committee members, along with their involvement in the budget discussions and annual performance plans, have been truly remarkable. It is our oversight responsibility to ensure an environment that is not harmful to health and well-being of our people, to protect the environment for the benefit of the present and the future generations. The sustainable use of biodiversity lies at the heart of the economic contribution of our environmental sector. Our country is blessed with remarkable biodiversity from our rich terrestrial ecosystems of our diverse marine environments. We must protect and preserve this natural heritage for future generations. The budget allocation empowers the department to implement conservation strategies manage protected areas, combat wildlife, and ensure the sustainable use of our natural resources. Through these efforts, we safeguard our unique ecosystems and promote the well-being of both wildlife and our people. By investing in environmental protection, we create opportunities for green jobs, for sustainable industries such as the circular economy and ecotourism, contributing to the overall well-being of our nation and fostering a resilient and thriving economy. The environmental sector plays a transformative role in our society, provides opportunities for social empowerment, inclusivity, and sustainable development. The allocation of this budget enables the department to promote and build human resource capacity for the sector, engage local communities in conservation efforts, and foster social cohesion through shared environmental values. By embracing these principles of environmental justice and transformation, we create a more equitable society where all South Africans can access and enjoy the benefits of a healthy environment. Our country faces a plethora of environmental challenges such as the impacts of climate change, water scarcity, the biodiversity loss, land degradation, and various forms of pollution. We are thus aware that the allocation of this budget does not amount to the immense resource requirements dictated by the legislated mandate upon by the department. Based on scientific projections, climate change is going to worsen the environmental challenges, implying that budget
interfering with the
May I make a request again that those who are on the virtual platform, you are disturbing now the debate in the House. Ensure that your microphone stays off. And may I also request the NA table to instruct the ICT that as soon as a microphone goes on virtual platform that is not recognized, for it to be switched off, please. Thank you.
Based on the scientific projections, climate change is going to worsen these environmental challenges, implying that the budget allocation towards combating or mitigating the impacts of climate change should be increased. We are also conscious of the fiscal constraints that the country currently faces. Thus, we appreciate the allocation of this budget to the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and Environment. Despite these challenges, I have confidence in the department's capabilities and its commitment to achieving its set targets for the 2023-2024 financial year, including that 80% marks that the minister has set for the department. The executive management, the technical personnel, and the assurance provided by your honorable minister and your team are really reassuring to us as a portfolio committee. The department, through its 9 programs and its entities, that includes Ismangaliso Wetland Park Authority, South African Biodiversity Institute, SunParks, South African Weather Service, and the Marine Living Resource Fund, have capable professionals to advance the achievement of constitutional mandate and plans for the 2023-2024 financial year. Having thoroughly examined this particular budget and the annual performance plans, on behalf of the African National Congress and this portfolio committee, I unreservedly support the allocation of this budget amounting to 9.8 billion for the fiscal year 2023-2024 year of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and Environment. And I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Weber.
Thank you, Chair. If the Department of Fishery, Forestry and Environment really wishes to successfully deliver on its constitutional mandate, then the national and provincial authorities need to get properly aligned. Too much hay falls on the ground between the different authorities, and in the end, nothing gets resolved. Since the national TOPS regulations came into place in 2007, some provinces still have not even implemented them. 16 years. So much time is spent on developing fancy regulations, bills and amendments, but the enforcement and implementation are there not to be backed up. This government has failed to protect our rhinos and elephants from poaching. Our communities still suffer from heavy air pollution, sewage overflows, plastic pollution, and disposable diapers continue to destroy our rivers and oceans. Sheba, the escaped pet tiger, captured the attention of the whole country, only to be killed because she was a danger to the public. The illegal trade in tigers is lucrative, and a full set of bones can go up to $70,000. South Africa has signed the CITES International Agreement, and tigers are included on Appendix 1, prohibiting the international commercial trade. But still, South Africa has traded over 200 live captive bred tigers already in 2018. Why does the department and provincial authorities not adhere to the CITES regulations, or are they above that? It is alarming that in 4 provinces, a permit is not even needed to keep a pet tiger. Does the department care? Currently, the unemployment rate in South Africa is 32.9%, one of the highest in the world. It is projected that another 850 jobs will be lost due to load shedding. It is not wise to stop a whole hunting industry where there are some culprits. The DA agrees that only captive lion breeding with the sole purpose for caned hunting and lion bones should be stopped. We are against lion bones and caned hunting. According to the high-level panel report, the department is supposed to do an audit and identify all the lion farmers that breed lions unethically for caned hunting. But the lion task team has gotten nowhere and used all old information. This is unfair to everyone involved, including lion owners not involved with cane hunting, the NGOs, and the lions themselves. These lions should be relocated or introduced to the wild instead of being euthanized. Euthanasia should only be the last resort when there's no other option for the lions. Renostergetalle in Suid-Afrika is besig om teen 'n baie vinnige spoed af te neem. Miskien moet die departement gaan kers opsteek by die grootste en mees suksesvolle renosterboer in Suid-Afrika. Hierdie boer het omtrent net soveel renosters en nie meer as die Kruger Nasionale Park, en in al die jare was daar 1 renoster gestroop nie. Sadly, this farmer now has to sell 2,000 rhinos, as there is no assistance financially to keep on conserving them. What will happen to these rhinos if they are released into the Kruger Park? It won't be long before they are all poached. Does the DFF have a plan for them? We know that after the Wildlife Ranching South Africa and the Professional Hunters Association served papers to halt the TOPS regulations, the minister immediately withdrew the Gazette and agreed to pay costs. Does this mean that you actually agreed that the regulations were untenable for wildlife and habitat conservation? What a waste of taxpayers' money. It is clear there is a desperate need for national and provincial environmental authorities. Unfortunately, whatever Minister Cressy attempts to achieve, her party will never see the environment as a priority and will never give the department or its entities the money it needs to actually resolve the challenges. Next year, when the moonshot pack saves South Africa, the DA will ensure that finally our environment is treated with the care it deserves. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Paulson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the 26th July Movement, Economic Freedom Fighters, President Julius Sello Malema, the officials, commissars, members, fellow members of Parliament, and you too, Minister. Minister, I noticed when you were thanking the entities, you thanked all the entities except the Marine Living Resources Fund. I wouldn't either. You're right. You shouldn't. Chairperson, part of this department's mandate is to ensure secure, ecologically sustainable development and use of natural resources while promoting justifiable economic and social development. We need to ask ourselves constantly whether this department, under the leadership and guidance of this ministry, is fulfilling this mandate. Many municipalities are failing to carry out the environmental management functions. Our municipalities across the country are failing to deliver services like refuse collection to poor Black communities, as is the case in areas of metros like Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg. until the EFF came to rescue in those municipalities. The economic freedom fighters engages in Andristatani cleanup campaigns across the country every weekend. President Julius Malema, Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, leads an Andristatani cleanup campaign in a different province every weekend. The Andristatani campaign provides relief for underserviced communities across the country, even in the DA-led municipalities like the city of Tshwane, Cape Town, George, Knysna, Theewaterskloof, to name a few. Chairperson, the irony is that we have a national waste management strategy, a legislative requirement of the Waste Act of 2008. As an example of how dismally the ANC fails at implementing anything, we should have a closer look at the goals of the Waste Act. In Goal 1 of the Waste Act, this ANC government says that it will promote waste minimization, reuse, recycling, and recovery of waste. In Goal 2 of the Waste Act, this ANC government says it will ensure the effective and efficient delivery of waste services. Goal 8, here's the irony, states that this ANC government will establish effective compliance with and enforcement of the Waste Act. We know that's not happening. The annual performance states that 300 performance plan states that 300 councillors and officials were trained in waste management. Out of all the councillors and officials, only 300. We are losing the fight against waste. Minister, Section 2J of the Marine Living Resources Act states, and I quote, the need to restructure the fishing industry to address the historical imbalances and to achieve equity in all branches of the fishing industry. Furthermore, Section 18.5 of the MLRA states, in granting any right referred to in subsection 1, the minister shall, in order to achieve the objectives contemplated in Section 2, have particular regard to the need to permit new entrants, particularly those from historically disadvantaged sectors of society. These two sections are the cornerstone for the transformation of the fishing industry. It enables you, Minister, to introduce new entrants into the various fishing sectors. Many fishers registered companies and made application for FRAP 2020. We now know that the efforts were in vain. There is no way that this department will allow Black people to threaten the domain of white monopoly capital. We must go and compete in the lower leagues in the congested small-scale fisheries sector. The Western Cape process for the allocation of small-scale fishing rights, which started in 2005-2006 financial year, is yet to be concluded. Of the 8,500 people that were considered as per the court order in 2005, only 4,037 verification forms were collected. More than half of the people involved in the 2016 verification process have disappeared. Our people have died while waiting for this ANC government to give them permission to fish. We have no choice but to poach that paddle-a-moon, Minister. The fishing management branch has never delivered services timeously due to human capacity shortages. FRAP 2020 became FRAP 2022 due to staff shortages, and only one phase of the appeals has been finalized. You say it's on track, Minister. I say it's way behind time. The fishing rights process under this ANC government has been nothing but a fantastic catastrophe. Minister, I believe this department missed a golden opportunity when it handed Knoflokskraal to Public Works. It is common cause that the most deprived sections of our people are those in the rural areas, like our people in Knoflokskraal, Grabouw. They have little or no land, little or no fuel, little or no income, and struggle daily with the burden of poverty. Forestry is rurally based, and there is a natural link between it and the rural population. It can provide opportunity and hope and can add dignity to the environment. There is still no strategy as to how this government will ensure broader participation in forestry. Lastly, Chairperson, why are the public hearings on the climate change bill rushed in such a manner? In most cases, the hearings are poorly planned, and many of those who attend use it to express their frustration with this ANC government. The EFF does not support this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Firstly, I want to acknowledge the sterling political leadership by the Minister and the Deputy Minister of this department. I think it's commendable that they lead, knowing exactly what is required to sort out all our environmental problems in the country. I also want to acknowledge, in addition to the current chairperson, the work done by who I would call an aggressive leader, Honorable Faith Mutambi. She was really an aggressive leader of this committee, and all of us can attest to that, sitting long hours and dealing with many, many issues. And I want to wish her well in a new career path. I'm not surprised, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, that a number of points that I want to raise today have been raised by you in your speech. And I think that is because many of us who care for the environment have a common understanding of the issues. We may have differences in terms of how we tackle the issues, but at least we know what the issues are in the country. One of the areas that I thought I should touch on very briefly is we are a bit concerned that whilst overall the department's performing relatively well, there are certain programs or divisions within the department that really require to be jacked up. When we look at audit reports, when you look at performance reports, we find that they're really not doing their tasks, and money is not being spent in those particular divisions. And this is something I think we've been talking about for years. And I think in the 7th Parliament, this needs to come to an end. I appreciate the comments on the St. Lucia and the farmers, and also appreciate the fact that you, Minister, personally went to that area. And you met not only small farmers, but also the larger farmers. I think it's important for us to care for all South Africans, irrespective of whether they're big or small, black, white, red, or blue. Not that red there sitting on my left. But I think it's positive that something is being done in the St. Lucia area, and we look forward to that environmental report sooner rather than later, so we can deal with the challenges being faced by the farmers there. On captive lion breeding, we note the committee high-level panel's report, and we all welcome that report. You referred to the general notice on voluntary exit. I would just like to know how effective is the voluntary exit? You've extended the period. How many people have already submitted voluntary exit? Because at the end of the day, I think what we should be looking at is bringing a complete end to these abhorrent practices and protecting Africa's iconic species. And whether or not the voluntary exit is going to help, we don't know. Time will tell. But I think we've just got to stop the practice for the sake of not only the lions that can't speak for themselves, but for the sake of the environment and our tourism industry. When speaking about animals that cannot speak for themselves, I think primate welfare is also an issue that often goes unnoticed. And this lack of public awareness leads to abuse and neglect of the species. It is therefore imperative that we not only address the legal aspects of primate cruelty, but also that the department focuses on fostering educational awareness and supporting specialized care and emergency rescue centers. With regard to the climate change bill, every time the chairperson introduces the bill in public hearings, he says to those that are there that there have been over 13,000 written and oral representations received so far. And I think that's a sizable number. I am very pleased that I've been invited to speak. And I think Honorable Chair will remember at Pinetown, there was a school there, Durban Girls College. And they've asked me to come there and speak to them about the bill. And they want to make some submissions as well, which I will bring back to the committee. I'm doing that sometimes in June. But on climate change, Honorable Minister, I remember the Honorable President standing here and answering questions on the relationship between the energy ministers, the Mantashe, Ramakgopa, and Pravin Gordhan, and yourself. Now, I'm happy to hear that you're reducing time frames on dealing with the EIAs. But this car power ship issue, where are we with it? Because on the one hand, you hear that we require this electricity very urgently. On the other hand, there are the environmental concerns. So where are we? We've got to come to some decision. And lastly, in the last 20 seconds, the issue of waste to energy, which has been mentioned by you and other speakers here. I mean, we've got to start thinking of innovative ways. waste to energy solutions. And there are ways, proven technology, and which would become a strategic enabler to support crucial future requirements, not only for but also hydrogen, phosphorus, fuel, ammonia, bulk energy storage, bulk hot water, and other applications. So I think we need to be more innovative in that industry. The IFU will support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Breed.
Thank you, House Chair. This department plays a crucial role in not only safeguarding the future of our wildlife, but also in safeguarding our environment so as to keep our environment free from pollution and thus safe for our citizens. The ANC as the governing party is failing in the obligation of the state as a trustee of protected areas to fulfill the rights contained in Section 24 of the Constitution, to have the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations through reasonable legislative and other measures. Although the white paper on conservation and sustainable use of South Africa's biodiversity is to be welcomed, there is a complete disconnect between the lofty principles enumerated in the white paper and the reality on the ground, where an ANC administration has allowed SA's network of protected areas to wither from neglect, corruption, and nepotism. This is clearly evidenced in the recent EWT report, the State of Provincial Nature Reserves in SA, which noted across all provinces there are inadequate budget allocations for effective provincial reserve management. In many provinces, most government funding goes to salaries, bonuses, and human resources, with very little allocated for maintenance and operational expenditure. Surely, Honourable Minister, you cannot sit idly by with findings like this, even though PRs aren't directly in your care. It is almost impossible to envisage how this society living in harmony with nature, as spoken about in the Biodiversity White Paper, could arise in a future in which provincial reserves, already struggling for survival, are allowed to fail through lack of effective management and resources. What must also be asked is how will Goal 3 of the White Paper, ensuring access and benefit sharing in a fair and equitable manner by local communities living with and adjacent to Big Five areas, be delivered from already impoverished reserves? What is just as worrying is SANParks' inability to stem the imminent extirpation of rhinos in the Kruger National Park, where 80 ranger posts, including 3 section rangers, remain unfilled, and a long-promised integrity testing policy has yet to be implemented. The government has also failed to implement the National Integrated Strategy against illegal wildlife trade, which has been languishing on the President's desk since 2017, thereby hampering law enforcement efforts. Further failed to bring into operation the NEMLA Act, which was first introduced to Parliament in 2017, but only gazetted in June of 2022. The government inexplicably withdrew the long-delayed amendments to the TOPS regulations, as well as the elephant norms and standards on March 2023, in the face of a legal challenge, using more time required to study as an explanation, agreeing to pay the applicants legal costs and admitting to wasting the court's time, despite DEFI Legal having submitted a 91-page answering affidavit. We welcome, however, the TOPS regulations, as the Minister announced, that will be available shortly, and would like to see that done with the elephant norms and standards as well. To this date, the department's legal team have failed to submit an answering affidavit to the interim interdict granted in the High Court in April 22, overturning DEFI's quotas for the hunting and export of elephant, rhinos, and leopards. So no hunting of these species may take place to the detriment of the hunting or of the wildlife industry. Turning to the environment we live in daily, I become even more worried as the same trends continue. You can literally list on one hand the number of landfill sites that check all legislative boxes necessary. Take Strijdfontein landfill in Kroonstad for an example. Besides the fact that there are residential properties too near the landfill and the fence is non-existent, the municipality admits that it has been full since 2018, that rehabilitation cannot be done because nobody tenders for it, and no new landfill site has been identified to rectify this problem. Also, are the permit regulations not met, and so we stumble forward year after year. In the Free State, Destia even admits that although they budget for solid waste management, it is never used because municipalities have an inability to use these funds. Minister, I also want to implore you to put pressure on your counterpart in the Ministry of Water and Sanitation. Our water sources are being polluted by raw sewage from failing infrastructure on a daily basis. In the Setsoto local municipality in the Free State, we had a burst sewage main run directly into the river for 2 weeks before the necessary repairs could be done. Our animals deserve better. Our citizens deserve better. South Africa deserves better. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Olomisa.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, as well as honorable members. Environmental management and climate change are permanent features of our situation as South Africans, whether we like it or not. Climate change is here to stay, and the majority of us are unprepared for what nature can throw in our direction. The Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment must take the lead and produce an aid memo that will help South African households to capacitate themselves to survive the ever-increasing natural disasters. Such an aid memo should also be extended to all municipalities. In some areas, it is already unseasonably snowing, and we cannot rely on electricity only to warm our homes. Wood for burning is becoming scarce, and it would be advisable for communities to have forests planted for the sake of growing firewood. We need to intensify our people's understanding of the effects of climate change and the need to preserve the environment. These topics must be highlighted in the school syllabus. Finally, regarding load shedding, early warning signs of the pending crisis were ignored. The suffering nation wait for the powers that be to sort out this mess.
Need to stop blaming each other.
Irrelevancy.
What
Honourable Olomisa.
should we do then?
Honourable Olomisa, you may continue, and I'll ask that the IT team sort out the interpreter that is interrupting the speaker. There is interpretation services in the chamber, so we can hear. So they must sort that out. But the Honourable Olomisa, you can now continue and conclude, please.
Thank you.
You should rather proceed and finalize it. I'm done.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Deputy Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, Member Brakshisi, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Ntate Pogisho Modise, members of Parliament, the management of the Fifth Family, and yourself, Chairperson. Thank you very much. It is once again a pleasure for me to be addressing this House in a month that we celebrate our country and the world's rich biodiversity. In a few days to come, South Africa will thus join the nations of the world in commemorating International Biological Diversity Day. The commemoration is imperative for South Africa, as we are one of the 17 mega diverse countries in the world, and thus placing on us a huge responsibility to ensure that our biodiversity is managed and conserved sustainably for current and future generations that depend on it for life and livelihoods. House Chair, our government is deliberately taking pro-disadvantaged gender and youth responsive environment and climate issues into the heart of transformation and economic decision-making and related programs, in particular local government budgeting processes. And as such, our government has already laid solid policy, plans, budget, and monitoring processes for a progressive, sustainable environment. All that is needed now, in the words of our president in his SONA 2023 address, is to, I quote, concentrate on those issues that concern South Africans the most: load shedding, unemployment, poverty and rising cost of living, and crime and corruption. All four issues, Chairperson, as identified by the president, are urgent service delivery matters that the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment has mainstreamed into its prioritized programs. The district development model is one of such programs. As a district model national champion, I have led a number of campaigns in communities in the Northwest Province and the Free State to not only discuss service delivery challenges that exist, particularly waste services, but also procurement and job creations that will promote and support local business and involve local communities. During each visit, we have participated in cleanup and greening campaigns to raise awareness about litter, waste collection, and landfill management. We have also handed over waste collection compact trucks, front-end loaders, and other material required by municipalities to improve service delivery across 9 provinces. House Chair, earlier this year, I had the pleasure to launch the Waste Management Intervention Cleaning and Greening Project in Vryburg, Northwest, marking 2023 as the year of implementation under the district development model with the aim of accelerating service to the people. To assist the municipalities, our department engaged with the Department of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs and National Treasury to enable municipalities to procure waste collection and landfill operation vehicles through the Municipal Infrastructure Grant, which referred to as MIG. The fee has secured 5 waste collection vehicles for all local municipalities of Dr. Ruth Mompati District Municipality, which has the National District which as the National Development Model Champion handed them over to the local mayors early this year. But House Chair, our work does not stop there. For instance, the Betuli Dam Community Project in Kopanong Local Municipality is one of the key projects identified to stimulate the economy of Karib District Municipality in the Free State Province under the ambience of the district development model. In this instance, the department has appointed a suitably qualified service provider to facilitate the development of the Betuli Dam Community Project business plan over a period of 6 months. The business plan will include, but not limited to, the operational objectives, marketing, investment, and financial strategy in order for us to be able to create jobs in that poor municipality. The planting of trees and greening is another of the prioritized programs within the department. The department plays a leading role in the implementation of the country's commercial forestry master plan, which not only promotes growth, but also invests into a sector that has the potential to contribute to job creation and increased production of forestry products. In this time, more than 70 potential contractors were trained in forestry skills in the Western Cape in partnership with fiber, paper, and manufacturing sector education and training, which is referred to as FPM-SETA. In terms of the expansion of the forestry footprint to support the value chain, Chair, about 30,500 hectares have been identified for environmental impact assessment so that new afforestation can take place. Forestry is also key to the greening of our country. As we commence the 3rd year of implementation of the greening program, we can confirm that department planted more than 100,000 trees in 2022-23 financial year. With the support and participation of broader stakeholders, more than 985,000 have already been planted. Chairperson, a young leadership is critical and essential to translate all our policies and plans into action for a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. 80 students, 80, are to be selected to be part of the Forestry 21 project for strengthening capacity in South African higher education in forestry. These students will work with international teams of learners, contributing and testing the knowledge generated as the new curricula are developed. There will be a climate smart workshop in Finland, followed by a forestry entrepreneurship initiative. This program has resulted in the introduction of the forestry qualification at the University or the Tshwane University of Technology in Bombela campus. This will contribute immensely to the sector, especially in the afforested area of Mpumalanga. Chairperson, we have started supporting 14 students at one of the forest institutions with stipends for their experimental learning from April this year. Additional resources will assist in ensuring the sustainability of the initiatives for the benefit of our students within the sector. With all said and done, Chair, the above mentioned progressive and developmental initiatives and endeavors by our department and government can never come to an everlasting successful fruition if corruption and crime against environment continue to persist. Crime and corruption are a two-pronged evil that is preventing any nation to progress. In our mandate, when we speak about environmental crimes, the focus is largely on wildlife crimes such as rhino poaching or on pollution of our rivers, the air, and our general environment. Not often spoken about is the serious scourge of plant crimes in our country, particularly the poaching of succulent plants in our country. Without emergency intervention, there is a very high probability of them being extinct within the next 10 years. My department, together with SANBI, is spearheading the national effort to bring this poaching under control. As I conclude, Chair, I would like to thank the Honorable Minister for her leadership within forestry, fisheries, and environment sector in the past year, and to thank our Director General, Ms. Nomfundo Chabalala, and the department officials, board chairpersons, and CEO of our entities for their support. I also thank you, Honorable Chair, Ntate Modise, and members of the Portfolio Committee, in particular, for your robust engagement and guidance. We really appreciate that, myself and the Minister and the team. Allow me to close, Chairperson, in the words of the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who said, I quote, "Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that's overwhelm the world." I thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. The next speaker is the Honorable Winkler.
House Chair, last year, 461 people died in devastating floods in my home province of KwaZulu-Natal. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's 6th assessment report, in South Africa and the South African region, climate models project increases in temperature that are higher than the global average, increased frequency and intensity of heat waves, and shifts in rainfall patterns that could lead to more frequent droughts in some areas and increased flood risks in others. The reality is that municipalities across South Africa are woefully unprepared to handle climate shocks. The National Climate Change Bill, as it stands, requires significant strengthening. It does not provide enough resources and support for local municipalities. It is unclear on how climate policies will be implemented at the local level, and falls short on how it intends to ensure that municipalities follow through on their responsibilities. We are facing a governance crisis across South Africa, where municipalities are collapsing like dominoes. The prospect that these municipalities are at the front line of protecting South Africans from climate change shocks is frankly unfathomable. However, there is a city that is paving a way in terms of its climate change response, one that is emerging as a global frontrunner And yes, you guessed it, it's the DA-led city of Cape Town. Among only 43 cities worldwide out of 596 that have been scored, the DA-led city of Cape Town received the highest grade from the Carbon Disclosure Project. Now, speaking of woeful failures, in March, I submitted a letter to your office, Minister Creasy, requesting urgent assistance in the sewage crisis in eThekwini municipality. I have not even received an acknowledgement of receipt. However, I'm not sure why I'm surprised, because this is the exact same treatment that the residents of eThekwini have received, despite the fact that sewage spills have basically destroyed Durban's tourism economy and natural heritage. What the residents of the city can, though, count on is that the DA will once again do what you are too afraid to do, and that is take the ANC-led eThekwini to court and hold them accountable for non-compliance. Section 24 of the Constitution states that everyone has a right to an environment which is not harmful to their health and well-being, as well as a right to have the environment protected for future generations. Now, it is clear that you're failing on the first count, but what of the second? 2 years ago, the high-level panel that you appointed released a report that was unambiguous in its direction. It called for an end to the canned line hunting industry. 2 years later, and there are at least 9,000 lines languishing in this industry and counting. In March this year, you called for stakeholder participation regarding voluntary exit. This is a commendable first step, but that's all it is, just a first step. In February, you authorized the export of 12 cheetah to India. 2 of these cheetah are now dead in just 2 months. Legally, non-detrimental findings for threatened or protected species must undergo a public participation process before they are adopted. Now, we know that this did not transpire, and it's also further come to light that there's allegedly no permit for the export of these cheetah as required by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. The fact is that you and your department have unlawfully exported 12 of our South African cheetah to their death. It is clear that you and the Department of Environmental Affairs are failing to honor Section 24 of our Constitution. But guess what? In 2024, South Africa will have an opportunity to elect a DA government that will.
The next speaker is the Honorable Dlamini, and I'm informed it's the member's maiden speech. The Honorable Dlamini.
Honorable Chairperson, Minister Barbara Creasy, Deputy Minister Mekiso, Honorable discipline members. Honorable Chairperson, we gathered here to engage in a crucial debate for a topic of marine living resources, and they are significant in our society. The ocean, with its vast expanse of rich biodiversity, hold immense potential and importance of our environment, economy, and overall well-being. It is imperative that we recognize the value of marine living resources and take appropriate measures to protect and utilize them sustainably. In this speech, I'll present argument highlighting the importance of marine living resources and the need to responsible management. First and foremost, marine living resources play a vital role in maintaining ecological balance and biodiversity. The oceans are home of diverse array of species. From microscopic platform of majestic whales, these species form intricate food webs and ecosystem that support lives of our planet. By protecting and preserving marine living resources, we ensure the survival of the numerous species and maintain the delicate balance of nature. Furthermore, marine living resources have substantial economic value. The ocean provides multitude resources that contribute to the various industries, including fisheries, tourism, and pharmaceutical. Fisheries in particular are significant source of employment and livelihood for millions of people worldwide. By responsibly managing marine living resources, we can ensure the sustainability of fisheries support coastal communities and create jobs opportunity. In addition to economic benefits, marine living resources also offer immense potential in scientific research and innovation. The ocean contains a treasure trove of yet to be discovered species and mutual compound to hold promise to medical advancement, renewable energies, resources, and technology breakthroughs. By investing in research of exploration, we can unlock the untapped potential of marine living resources and drive innovations to diverse fields. However, despite the undeniable importance of marine living resources, they are currently facing numerous threats. Overfishing, habitat destruction, pollution, and climate change pose significant risk to the health and sustainability of oceans. Irresponsible exploitation of marine resources can lead to a depletion of fish stocks, irreversible damage to marine ecosystem, and negative socio-economic impact on coastal communities. It is imperative that we address these challenges and adopt sustainable practice to ensure a long-term viability of marine living resources. To achieve this, we must prioritize effective marine resources management strategies. These include implementing science-based fisheries management plans, establishing marine protection areas, and promoting sustainable fishing practice. Collaboration effort among government, scientists, industries, and local communities are essential to developing and implementing these strategies. By working together, we can strike a balance between conservation and utilization, ensuring that future generations can also benefit by the abundance of these marine resources. Education and awareness of also key component of the responsible marine resource management. We must educate the public about importance of marine ecosystem, the impacts of human activities, and the need for sustainable practices. By fostering a sense of stewardship and environmental consciousness, we can inspire individuals to make informed choices and actively participate in protecting the marine living resources. In conclusion, the preservation of sustainable utilization of marine living resources are of paramount importance of our environment, economy, and future generation. We must recognize the ecological, economic, and scientific value they hold and take decisive action to ensure their protection. By adopting responsible management practices, fostering collaboration, and raising awareness, we can safeguard the oceans, biodiversity, and secure prosperous future for ourselves and generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Allow me to welcome the presentation by the department. Despite the audit opinion and or reports, we can confirm that, of course, the department is moving in a positive direction. But allow me to draw the attention of this House to the situation in Palestine, where 2.5 million trees were uprooted. 1 million of these were olive trees that the Palestinians will support oppressors or be part of the oppressive society. Now, one of the issues that I want to raise, Chairperson, is the issue of high vacancy rate. But to be a serious problem for us, and I think KZN appears to be the main culprit, so those that are not in compliance. Waste management. Now, I think my colleagues have raised concerns, but I want to also say this. I had the opportunity the other
Honorable members, let's just be patient.
Just to throw a sweet paper outside your window because of the clean conditions I found the roads in Paarl. Now, on the contrary, if you look at eThekwini, and if you can look at the pollution that is being caused there, the E. coli level, which is extremely high, and the health risks to the community of eThekwini, I want to urge the minister and the team of eThekwini. It is in shocking and deplorable conditions. You know, I've had the opportunity of speaking to some of on the light poles, not even those exist anymore. So I think a lot of work needs to be done, particularly in some of these metros as well. Now look at the quality of water which people are reliant and dependent on in eThekwini all the time. I see that the UKZN is now, through their website, going to provide information on the quality of water so people can go in there. But not everybody has the luxury of internet to be able to repeatedly see whether the quality of water has improved. On the issue of small-scale fishing, yes, work is being done, but we believe a lot more needs to be done. The question is, why is international fishing companies being given priority to local fishing companies? And if you've heard some of our small-scale fishers complaining that even snook, which is common in the Western Cape, they can't get it to the shore because these big companies are going further in and preventing it from coming closer to the shore. These are some of the problems that they seem to be. And as far as the forestry, Chairperson.
Remember, your time is now expired.
Okay, the NFP will support this budget vote.
Thank you. Honorable members, we apologize for the connectivity issues. And that's why we invite honorable members to be in the chamber when these debates take place, so that everybody can have the opportunity to listen to the debate. The next speaker is the Honorable Mchuno.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Minister Barbara Christie, Deputy Minister Maggie Sochu, and the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Modise, honorable members. Honorable Chairperson, in our policy guide document adopted in 1992, wherein we had stated that we must use our environment in a careful and planned way so that all people can benefit from it now and in the future. The ANC, true to its conviction that we are ready to govern, emphasizes the right to a safe and healthy environment for all South Africans through sustainable development, equitable resource access, public participation, and international cooperation. As the ANC, our environmental policy continue to support conservation, safe living conditions, and responsible waste management, while integrating environmental principles across policies and collaborating globally for sustainable development. In rising to support budget vote 32, the ANC recognizes the importance of policy consistency while acknowledging new policy challenges as a result of our ever-evolving nature of our society and the international systems. One of the important policy aspects that require our attention and resolve is waste management and recycling, the oceans economy, and just energy transition, biodiversity, and wildlife. These areas demand our immediate attention and careful consideration to ensure a sustainable and prosperous future for South Africa. The ANC has long recognized the importance of waste management and recycling, particularly when it comes to metals, plastics, rubber, and paper, and understands that by encouraging waste recycling practices, we can significantly reduce energy consumption in metal production and fabrication. By improving on our waste management, this will lead to an increase in the diversion of waste from landfills, especially in many instances where local municipalities are beginning to experience challenges in terms of finding land for the development of new landfill sites. We call for the promotion of the recycling industry, especially metals, while limiting the export of scrap metals. By prioritizing the development of compliant landfill sites, we acknowledge that this responsibility lies largely with local governments. However, we can recognize the need for a comprehensive review of the Waste Act as highlighted in the ANC NEC Lekgotla in 2021. This review will ensure that our waste management policies align with our sustainability goals and provide the necessary framework for a cleaner and greener South Africa. Honorable Chairperson, on the oceans economy, we firmly believe in expanding participation in this vital sector. The ANC recognizes the immense potential in the fisheries sector holds in creating job opportunities and improving livelihoods, particularly for our economically marginalized subsistence fishing communities. We recognize the importance of the finalization of the fishing rights and licenses and the development of robust marine policy that prioritize the use of South African ships in our trade with the rest of the world. By so doing, we not only protect our marine resources, but also boost our national economy and secure the future for those dependent on the ocean for sustenance. Furthermore, the just energy transition is a cornerstone of our commitment to a sustainable future. The ANC wholeheartedly embraced the Paris Agreement and the target of achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. To achieve this ambitious goal, we recognize the need for increased investment in renewable energy. By supporting the Green Economy Accord, we strive to boost demand in the renewable sector, stimulating economic growth while simultaneously mitigating climate change. However, we also acknowledge the challenges posed by unfunded programs on climate change mitigation. It is imperative that we prioritize allocating sufficient resources to these programs to ensure their effective implementation. And in pursuit of just transition, we cannot neglect the importance of education and awareness programs, particularly in rural communities. As we transition from coal to clean energy sources, it is imperative, as President Ramaphosa had said, to ensure that we leave no one behind. This can be best achieved through a social compact. This vote recognizes the value and potential of our rich biodiversity, and budget allocation of biodiversity sector alone employs approximately 400,000 individuals. And in the past, over the past years, we noted the decline in job opportunities created through EPWP. And in this financial year, over 106,958 job opportunities will be created. And mostly importantly, through infrastructure-led programs, this is in line with economic reconstruction and recovery plan of the government. Honorable Chairperson, let me just cite one important issue of how the ANC-led municipality is intervening in these issues of just transition. In a municipality led by the ANC called Mbofana Municipality, led by the Mayor, Maureen Makubane, a team of MLS Energy Technician, which is a company owned by the 3 young ladies who are graduates of PV Green Card program. They are currently in a process of building a solar plant, a 20 megawatts solar plant that will provide for that municipality in that area. And they've done it previously in Envrionment, where they installed a 40 kilowatt battery bank for Envrionment KZN wildlife. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, as we support this budget vote, as the ANC wish to indicate to the South Africans that indeed the opposition that are rejecting this vote are rejecting that small fisheries, EPWP, job creation, biodiversity, that they be given an advantage and be given services. So South Africans must know that the poorly and the previously disadvantaged communities are not represented by the opposition that is rejecting this budget, because it means they are saying those communities must not be
Honourable
provided
Member,
with
your
the
time
services.
is now
Thank you very
expired.
much,
Thank you.
Honourable Chairperson.
The next speaker is the Honourable Nyonso.
Honorable Chair, where I am, I've got serious challenges. Let me not waste time and say PAC supports this budget. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Bryant.
Thank you very much. In his expose, Landscapes of Fear, the investigative journalist Julian Rademeyer has revealed in detail the criminal syndicates controlling rhino poaching and the illegal wildlife trade from South Africa to China. These syndicates are directly connected to Mpumalanga's murky underworld, which has been emboldened over many years by ANC-led state capture and is characterized by ruthless assassins, cash and transit gangs, coal mafias, and territorial rulers. 75% of Kruger National Park's rhinos have been decimated by these syndicates since 2009. 82 vital game ranger posts remain unfilled in Kruger Park, and this budget only provides enough money to fill a handful of them. Our wild rhinos are destined for extinction if we don't provide enough boots on the ground as soon as possible to take on the poachers. Our endangered pangolin, abalone, and succulents are also being targeted and smuggled into China, and more should be done to increase the pressure to curtail the domestic Chinese markets. I am glad to hear about the integrated trafficking strategy, and I do hope that this is a success. There's growing evidence from groups such as the Southern Ocean Coalition of alleged Russian prospecting for gas in the Antarctic. This goes directly against decades-old international treaties signed by both South Africa and Russia. However, the ANC claims to know nothing about these activities and continues to proudly host Russian Antarctic research vessels in its ports. And as we know, these aren't the only Russian ships that it's been hosting. Many of our traditional fisherfolk have lost their businesses, and some have even been forced to sell their boats and small factories as a result of the drawn-out and overly bureaucratic fishing rights allocation process. This process has been the most secretive and opaque since rights were allocated in a democratic South Africa. This ANC government, through the FRAP process, has unfortunately severely compromised members of the traditional fishing communities, particularly those in the Western Cape. And now we're told that the ANC want to go even further by destroying coloured and Indian businesses, by forcing racial quotas upon them in the fishing industry in some provinces via the racist Employment Equity Amendment Act regulations. The ANC should not be awarding fishing rights to anyone who's simply going to use those rights to dispense patronage or to sell the rights off to the highest bidder. The allocations in the tuna pole sector reveal that many fishers have been excluded and paper quota holders bought in. A portion of the squid rights from the commercial sector were even assigned to the small-scale co-ops just to inevitably be sold back to the commercial sector. This is not empowerment. This government should be growing our local fishing businesses and increasing employment in the sector. No genuine fishing community should be shut out simply because of the color of their skin. It's a scandal that this is even being contemplated. We'd urge the minister to listen to the desperate pleas of traditional fisherfolk during the final phases of the appeals process, that this really is their last chance to recover their businesses and their dignity. As we know, the mess of small-scale fishing in the Western Cape was only resolved after the minister was forced to take her own department to court. But we still don't know whether the service provider responsible for screwing up the initial process has ever been blacklisted by government. Furthermore, the public needs to know who really stands to benefit from the small-scale process and how much influence certain connected local ANC cadres will have in the local fishing cooperatives. It's clear that the centralized ANC control of the granting of fishing rights is destroying the industry. The fisherfolk of this country will be far better served if the minister exercises her authority in terms of Section 78 of the Marine Living Resources Act and devolves the responsibility for the granting of certain fishing rights to competent local authorities, such as in the DA-led Western Cape. We acknowledge that some steps have been taken towards addressing issues within DFF's entities, but it often seems like one step forward and two steps back. After recovering from the impact of COVID and increasing its visitor footfall, SANB has taken the bizarre decision during a closed-door negotiation to cancel a long-standing free entry agreement for members of the 110-year-old Botanical Society. This will decimate BOTSOC's membership, and one can only conclude that there is some sort of an intention to collapse BOTSOC at the expense of our botanical gardens. As South Africa moves towards a moonshot coalition government in 2024, it's essential that we protect our precious environment for generations to come. The DA is already doing this where we govern and will continue to do so as the leader of a new national government in 2024. Thank you.
The next speaker is the Honorable Gancho.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister Barbara Chrissy, Deputy Minister Mme Kisotyo, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Modise, and honorable members, good morning. Honorable Chairperson, in support of this budget vote 32, I would like to emphasize the immense significance of the allocation of 9.87 billion of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. This allocation is not only crucial for their work in protecting the environment and promoting sustainable resource use, but also for effectively addressing and mitigating the impacts of climate disasters in South Africa. In 2021, the ANC noted the challenges around unfunded and unplanned expenditure and impacts arising out of the disasters and climate change. Our beloved country has witnessed the devastating consequences of climate disasters, such as floods, droughts, heat waves, and storms. These calamities have resulted in the loss of precious lives, the destruction of vital infrastructure, and economic hardships for many communities. It is utmost importance that we take swift and decisive action to reduce the impact of these disasters and build resilience in our nation. Our climate change bill that we are currently undergoing, Honorable Person, the one that you are questioning, you see what it is going to assist on these disasters. So you know that, Honorable Person. So our climate change bill that is currently undergoing processes of public hearings, processes, and our national adaptation strategy should look into the assessment of our country's vulnerability to climate change and the related risks at sectoral, cross-sectoral, and geographic level, including a consideration of relevant national disaster risk assessment in terms of the Disaster Management Act. Honorable Chairperson, the allocation of budget to DFFE will provide much needed resources to enable our level preparedness and response efforts. The allocation of almost 2.1 billion over MTEF is an investment in a state-of-art early warning system and cutting-edge weather forecasting technologies with accurate and timely information. We can alert our communities in advance, enabling them to evacuate safely and take the necessary precautions to minimize harm. We express our satisfaction with the allocation of nearly 2 billion to SANParks over the medium term. We would like to underscore the significant contribution that our parks make in growth of our economy, their role in promoting tourism, and their crucial function in conserving and protecting our environment. Our strategy as the ANC is to guard through legislation and policies against the threat to biodiversity, and this receives priority in this vote 32. South African Biodiversity Institute, with its resources allocation, will expand its conservation efforts, engage local communities in sustainable practices, and ensure the long-term survival of our unique plant and animal species. Honorable Chairperson, Isimangaliso Wetland Park Authority has, over the past financial year, made progress in achieving its objectives and performance indicators, and has successfully treated invasive alien plants, rehabilitated wetlands, engaged people in skills development as part of our skills revolutionary agenda, created job opportunities, raised its revenue, and attracted visitors to the park. And the authority focus on conserving the environment, monitoring compliance with governing legislations, and promoting biodiversity conservation aligns with its mandate to protect and maintain the park's World Heritage status. The allocation of resources to the different programs reflect the Isimangaliso priorities, with significant investment in administration and biodiversity conservation. Honorable Chair, the Marine Living Resource Fund aims to create a total of 4,500 jobs opportunities over the medium term through the Working for Fisheries program. The allocation to the marine living resources will assist in executing programs that ensure the long-term viability of our marine resources, sustain various fishing sector, and preserve the delicate balance of our coastal ecosystem. Moreover, it supports ecotourism initiatives, creating opportunities for local communities and promoting the appreciation and conservation of our marine heritage. The allocation will have a positive impact to the MLRF resource fund on conservation, economic development, food security, biodiversity, climate change adaptation, scientific research, and collaboration in the marine sector. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, the budget allocation of 9.87 billion to the department holds tremendous potential to safeguard our environment, to promote sustainable resource use, and build resilience in the face of climate disasters. By investing in preparedness, response mechanism, and collaboration with institutions like SANParks, SOurce, Isimangaliso Wetland Park, MLRF, and SANPI, we can protect our communities, preserve our natural heritage, and secure our sustainable future for generations to come. I emphasize the ANC support for this budget vote allocation and urge all esteemed members to do the same. Let us come together, recognizing the urgency of this, and make a resounding commitment to the protection of our environment and the well-being of our people. Honorable Paulson, I was very surprised for you to question this speed that we are moving when it comes to climate change bill. As I have mentioned earlier, you know that our people are affected badly and severely by the climate change. Honorable Winkler, you know, I thought you knew that sewage does not fall under this department. It falls under municipality and under Department of Water and Sanitation. So for you to raise that here, I was really surprised. Honorable Bryant, we will continue to lead because we are the choice of the people of South Africa. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, who will respond to the debate. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, and thank you very much, Honorable Members, for the support that we have received and also for the interesting points that have been raised during this debate. I agree, Honorable Weber. Provinces and municipalities must implement conditions for keeping of predators in captivity. My own view is that should be outlawed. It's outrageous that people keep lions and tigers in an urban area. That process is undergoing consultation at the moment. With regards to the TOPS regulations, these were regulations I found. I took extensive discussion on them. I was told they were better than what we have at the moment. The last time there was public consultation was 2016. Rather than going through an extended court process, and I think honorable members have spoken about the situation we're in with regard to hunting, where the appeal just never gets back on the court order. I thought, let's just do the 30 days and then we can move on. Let me say to Honorable Paulson that I really like the Andries Tatani cleanup campaign. It's an excellent initiative and long may it last. Let me also say that we hope that now you're in coalition in a range of the metros that you will indeed improve waste collection, and we'll be watching that very keenly. There is, Honourable Member, a roadblock outside. We'll be having a look in your boot for the abalone that you told us was there. I think that a number of members have raised the issue of landfill compliance, and we have now moved towards a situation where we've brought together the cities around the top 40 landfills in the country in order of volume. And the purpose of this is to enhance compliance in those landfills, to try and sort out the pricing of landfilling as opposed to recycling, and to crowd in private sector investment, both into recycling and also into landfilling. And one of the associated projects there that we're having a look at is this City of Johannesburg Waste to Energy project, which I think if it can deal with some of the issues, would indeed be an interesting pilot project. Honourable members, I am concerned about the capacity of provincial conservation authorities. And I'm particularly concerned about the difficulties that these authorities are having in filling scientific posts and conservation posts, because managing conservation areas is not just about patrolling. It's also about ensuring that correct conservation practices are taking place. I think we all know that provincial governments are under severe financial pressures, and I have spoken to the Public Service Commission about my concerns about the lack of filling of scientific posts, both within provincial conservation.
Honorable members, I've requested the ICT team to immediately disconnect those who just switch on their microwave and disrupt proceeding. So let us order the microphone. Thank you.
Yes, no
Thank
microwaves.
you.
in
Please,
this
please
debate.
proceed, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair. Honourable House Chair, I was saying that I have raised with the Public Service Commission my concern that scientific and conservation posts, both within provincial departments and provincial agencies, are not regarded as core posts and fall by the wayside when provinces are having to constrain their finances, and this is a serious problem. Thank you, Honourable Singh, for your kind words. With regard, Honourable members, to the captive lion breeding industry, I think that what we have to start off with is giving the industry a chance to voluntarily exit and to understand what the implications are with regard to the lions themselves, the workers in those industries and the owners of those industries. I've indicated to you that it is still my intention before the end of this term to pass the policy document, which we suspended while we were bringing in the white paper. I don't want to talk about car power. I'm the appeal authority. But for those of you who are interested, there was quite an interesting document in Business Day the other day where there was an interview with the owners. I found it most enlightening because I stay away from this issue because I'm the appeal authority. Let me say, Honourable Winkler, I'm not the Minister of Water and Sanitation. And I understand that you have to have a stick to beat me, and there are not many sticks available, so you want to beat me for something I'm not responsible for. I fully understand that. That's your job. You earn money being a member of the opposition. But let me say—
Honorable Faber, why are you rising? Honorable Minister, can you just give me an opportunity to listen to the honorable member?
Honourable Chair, if I may use the microwave and perhaps just ask if the Minister would take a question, please.
No, not now. You've
Okay,
had your
not on the
chance.
Cheetos.
But what I can say to you with regard to my regulatory role is that there are tens of municipalities where we have issued notices. And in the eThekwini situation, we are working with those who have already taken the municipality to court. I don't remember whether they're in or out of the Moonshot Pact, but you're late on this one, colleagues. But what I'm pleased to announce in this house is COCTA has now given the city of eThekwini 1.5 billion rand, and I think that's going to go a long way to fixing those pump stations, which have created all the problems that we've had. Honorable, yes, let me talk about the cheetahs. I've actually got on my phone photos of the CITES permits and the passports that all of those cheetahs have. If you have other evidence, bring it to me, and I will investigate it. I don't have a problem with that. Honorable members, we desperately need the climate change bill, and we need the climate change bill because without it, we have no regulatory mechanism to ensure that municipalities and provinces budget for climate change adaptation. And that is why we have been asking you on a regular basis to please assist us so that this bill should be passed timelessly and should go to the NCOP for consideration before the end of this term. On fishing, I think Honorable Dlamini did a wonderful job demolishing you, Honorable Paulson, because what he explained is that
Order, honorable members.
in terms
Order.
of ensuring that we get more fishermen in the system by the low levels of the stock that has been depleted over many years of fishing. Honorable members, climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution are the greatest issues of our time, and they pose a threat to the future of humanity. I ask you to join with us in combating those threats and ensuring that all of us have a sustainable future for our children and our grandchildren. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, that concludes the debate in the business of the mini plenary. The mini plenary will now rise. Thank you.